We live? Live and alive. Live and alive. Olia, come in. Olia, come in. Olia, come in. We're going to start with this Mark Agnifilo video. I don't know if a lot of you guys have seen it. I didn't know Mark Agnifilo has been making press runs, but in my research for this video, I saw him on Court TV. So I want to play this Mark Agnifilo video. It's brand new. He's talking about yesterday's decision to try to get him bail, the motion that they filed 2 days ago, I should say. And so I want to play this video first. Then we're going to jump into the motion to acquit or motion to retry. All right. And shout out, there was somebody in our live this morning that said, "Hey, Jay, what do you think about the motion to retry?" And I didn't know about it at that time. That's why I tell you, our chat is smart. The people who watch this channel are very, very intelligent people, and you guys are always on the ball. So continue to help me help the rest of the channel. I appreciate that, guys. So let's jump into that Mark Agnifilo video. It's about 10 to 13 minutes. We'll drop that. I'm gonna play it just uninterrupted as people file in, and then maybe we can play it later on and we can dissect it a little bit. But let's listen to Mark Agnifilo speaking to Court TV.
Proposed. I read your motion and you talk about the exceptional facts of this case and how the way the Mann Act is being applied is kind of like one of a kind. Would you walk us through what you mean by that, please?
Sure. So the Mann Act was passed in 1910, and it's changed a few times through the years, but really what it's geared at, what it's focused on, is prosecuting people who make money from the business of prostitution. And that's not the allegation against Mr. Combs. The allegation of Mr. Combs, what the jury found, essentially was that he was a user of services provided by sex workers, essentially a John, for lack of a better word. And the Mann Act just historically hasn't been applied to Johns. It's a financial statute in prostitution, and so since that's not how it's being applied here, we made the argument that we have to, under the case law and the statutes in this area, that this is an exceptional reason, and that Mr. Combs should be considered for release on bail because of it.
Mark, I read in your motion you say that Mr. Combs may very well be the only John sitting in a jail right now for his crimes. What makes you say that?
So we've done a nationwide survey of Mann Act cases, and we're not all the way finished, but we've looked at probably close to 100 cases, and we don't see any other case where a John, the user of prostitution services, is being prosecuted under the Mann Act.
Can you pause that real quick for me?
Instances where.
Thank you. I just wanted to shout out, and I hope I got your pronunciation of your name right this morning. Iyaas, Iiyaas. That was who actually had educated me on this morning. We had a 7:30 a.m. live this morning, and that's who had mentioned, "Hey, what do you think about that motion? Did I look at it?" So I looked at it later on, obviously, and I want to just give you your shout out, and shout out everybody: Ray J, Sleepless and NJ, Aretha Davidson, China G, Cody Emack. Shout out to everybody who's here joining us right now. Continue, please.
Where the user of prostitution services has some kind of connection with the arranger, the organizer, the people who make the money from the prostitution services. But in terms of just being a straight user of services provided by a sex worker, we think he might be the only person in the country.
I certainly see what you're saying and can appreciate the legal argument you put forth in your motion for bail for Mr. Combs, Mark. And even if the judge agrees, let's say the judge agrees that this is an exceptional application of the Mann Act and your client may be the only one who's jailed right now. You've cited every other case you can find. It's an ROR type bond situation. What about the other component that we know the judge is very concerned about, and that is your client's propensity for violence? Even you yourself acknowledge that in the closing arguments of the case with what happened to Cassie on the video that the world saw, and in the instances with Jane. How can you reconcile your position now in this motion for bail, that he should be free and is not a danger to the public, when we know these instances happened in the past?
So I think the key thing with what you said is that it happened in the past. I mean, the only instance that we have in recent memory was one, and the trial evidence showed this, where Jane essentially, started a fight with Mr. Combs, smashed his head against the counter, threw glasses at him. Jealousy was always a feature of their relationship, and Jane was jealous of his relationship with another woman. And so that was about 14 months ago that happened. But other than that, everything dates back, a number of years, 2018 and before. And as we made, the point we made in the bail application as well is, Mr. Combs is seeking counseling, was seeking counseling for domestic violence before he was arrested. He was attending a program here in New York. And we really wish that he could have stayed in that program, but the federal government arrested him, and then he was in jail, and he couldn't continue with this very outstanding program, which I believe he'll come back to if he's released. And that's really, I started my career in the Manhattan DA's office, and I would see, all manner of domestic violence, and it's a very difficult crime for everyone involved. It's difficult, obviously, for the victim, who has to live in fear from one of the people in her lives that she's the closest to, or he's the closest to. But what I saw in the DA's office is that these were not resulting in lengthy prison sentences. These were resulting in appropriate, treatment programs, self-awareness, therapy, things like that. And I think this is what Mr. Combs needs, rather than an extended time in prison.
Mark, my understanding is that Jane wrote him a letter to get into the batterers program before he was arrested for the instant case. Is that correct?
So they were in the process of writing a letter. So what happened with Mr. Combs, and this is because of his notoriety, and I think this is really unfortunate, is that I tried very hard to get him into a batterers program in April, April and May, before he got arrested. And I think because of his
Can you
notoriety,
pause that real quick?
a lot of these programs didn't want to take him. And
I know I told you guys I would play this uninterrupted because it's a little bit of a long video, and I don't want to drag it out because I want to get into the actual information for today. We can break this down later on, but I didn't know that. That was something new to me, that he tried to get him into a battered woman program before. Remember, I made that video. I think it was a live that I did maybe a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, and it said Puff has been doing the work. I knew he was doing the work. I didn't know about that, or else I would have included it in the video, but he has been doing the work. Everybody holds on to this 8-year-old, 9-year-old video of the Cassie incident. He hasn't spoken to Cassie, said a word to Cassie since 2018. It's been 7 years. That video is 2016, which was 9 years ago, right? So, I keep saying, who were you 9 years ago, right? He has been doing the work. That whole, I'm changing my name to Love, Brother Love, whatever. I don't think those things, for somebody like Puff, I don't think that's just, for clout or for publicity. Personally, I believe that that's him understanding that the old person was not the greatest stand-up human being. And with him doing the work, he changed his name to Love or Brother Love, because he felt like he was a new person. I'm not out here caping for Puff. I'm looking at this as an impartial human being. You look at a person that has clearly gone through a transformation and wants to be called something different. That is like, I took psychology when I was in university. That is normal behavior. You don't want to be called the same person. Like when from the clips, when Malice went and left the clips, and he left the lifestyle that he was living, and he went into a more, let's just call it, righteous lifestyle. He changed his name from Malice to No Malice. You change your name, a lot of, like, people change your name. when they feel like they've changed the person they are. So he has been doing the work. This is not new. And it, for me, to put myself in this man's shoes, it's it's actually, it bothers me a little bit. I don't want to say it's devastating or heartbreak or something, but like it's annoying. It bothers me a little bit because if I was in his shoes, I would be pretty pissed that I'm doing the work to change as a human being, to be a more loving person, to correct my flaws. Clearly, he was doing drugs until the end, but clearly he was doing the mental work to change his behavior patterns. And then a video from 9 years ago when you were a different person, and I changed my name, and a video from 9 years ago when you were a different person with the other name surfaces, and everybody paints you as if you were that person right now at this moment. So all the work I did went out the window. Who cares with all the work you did? Who cares? All the work you did to get better, to improve your life, to improve the surroundings, to improve your family's life. Who cares about all that work to be a better man? Throw it out the window because we have a video from 9 years ago. You see how people are savage? People are savage. They don't have grace. It's so funny that that witch face Grace, she don't have grace. People don't have grace, and they'll do anything for clicks and views and money. They don't care about the victims. All these platforms that talk about victims, and oh, this and that. What are they doing for victims? Are they donating for charity? When you go and watch their videos on YouTube, or when you watch their stuff on cable TV, are you seeing, hey, click here to donate to domestic violence victims? Are you seeing, hey, we wanted to promote this charity, this movement for domestic violence, bring this person on, she sits on the board for domestic violence, this and that? No, you don't see any of that. Why? Because all they care about is money. That's what they want. And they don't care who they have to tear down or who they have to step on, who they have to climb on just to get the money. And then they got their minions out in the chat and in the comments. And instead of the minions in the chat and the comments coming in and saying, hey, look, I don't want to argue with you guys. I don't want to go back and forth. I disagree. But hey, y'all, go and check and put a link in the chat where we can go and learn about domestic violence, where we can go and help people that are suffering from domestic violence, where we can go and do something to make a difference. Where's that in the chat? All you guys come out in the chat is here to troll people. Where's, if you really care, show us you care. So I just wanted to stop it just to say that part. I'm not going to stop it too many times because I know we got to get through this, and I want to get through the actual motion.
So I think what was happening around the time of the incident that was testified to at the trial is that Jane was in fact helping him write a letter to get into one of these programs. And at the end of the day, he didn't get into the program that I think the letter was directed to, but we got him to another program, and he did start, therapy and counseling in that program, and did that for several weeks before he was arrested. So that's what your question is. The answer is yes, that is true.
And thank you for that, Mark. Is he availing himself of any programs now in the jail?
So the MDC doesn't have the programming that some other jails do, because it's not a final holding facility. It's really for people who are in a pretrial posture. So it's by its nature somewhat transient. So other prisons where people go to serve their sentences have much better programming, and so the programming at the MDC is not really that well established. That being said, we've cobbled together therapists and people who go in and speak with Mr. Combs, and he is availing himself of that.
Mark, I want to talk to you about sentencing, please. Have your expectations with the federal government changed at all with Maureen Comey being let go from her position?
Great question.
No, I thought Maureen Comey was an outstanding lawyer, and is an outstanding lawyer, and I think will go on to have a terrific career.
Just pause it real quick.
Of where she is. I think it's a loss.
I F with Mark Agnifilo, man. You see that? This was his main opponent. She was the lead prosecutor. He was the lead defense attorney on Puff's team, and nothing but class, right? Nothing but class for Marine Comey. Nothing but class. Nothing but respect for your opponent. That's leadership right there. That's how we do. Nothing but class. I think she was great, and I think that's a loss to the prosecution letting her go. Now, I wasn't a fan of Marine Comey, and I'm sure that she got under his skin a good bit. But when he's here and he's talking to people, that was very, very classy of him. Continue.
Hold on. I just want to shout out a few people. Shout out Mark Jag. Shout out to Winter. Winter, I saw your message about, to be honest, the timing of the program is not convincing if we're going to be fair. If you haven't seen our video about the Diddy's has been working on himself, you should go and watch that. We highlighted numerous instances over
Yeah,
a period of time.
before the timing of him going in the program. You're right about that. It's not convincing because this was coming down. He knew this was coming down, so it's not convincing in that regard. But once you add up everything all together, and you add up the fact that he had been into rehab, he had actually overdosed at a time, and he went to rehab numerous times, that he had gone to spiritual coaching sessions and mental therapy sessions, mental health therapy sessions, like to see a psychiatrist, and he had been diagnosed as a person that has depression, and he was actually on antidepressants, like he had a subscription for antidepressants. There was a lot that happened. So you're right if you isolate just that one thing. But if you watch that video where we're talking about where Puff been doing the work, you'll see that this is a pattern of the last 7 years since 2017 slash 20, yeah, about 2017 slash 2018. So it'll be 6 or 7 years before he got incarcerated. Or I shouldn't say incarcerated because it's not in an actual penitentiary, but it might as well be one. Go ahead.
To the U.S. Attorney's Office, and it's unfortunate, in my view, what happened to her personally. I got to know her and all the members of the government trial team pretty well during the trial, and I have a great deal of respect for all of them, including Ms. Comey. But no, that's an outstanding office. The Southern District of New York has a deep bench, as they say. They're very good lawyers in the office and on this trial team. So I don't think the presentation of evidence or arguments will suffer, even though Maureen left.
Mark, it seems like your team and the government are just miles apart on what kind of a sentence would be appropriate for Mr. Combs. What is your greatest hope, your most ideal hope for sentence for him?
So my hope, obviously, is that he gets out as soon as possible. We filed a bail application this morning, and my hope, obviously, is that the judge sees the wisdom in that and agrees with us. The government will oppose it, and the government will oppose it for reasons that they believe are sound. Now, in terms of sentencing, we believe that a sentence along the lines of time served is more than sufficient. If you look at what Johns are sentenced to, even if they're prosecuted in the first case in this country, no one's doing close to the time that Mr. Combs has done in jail. So I think we have to treat like cases alike, and I think he should be released in short order.
Mark, what are his hopes for his life? Because at some point this will all be said and done. We don't know what exactly the sentence will be that the court imposes, but after that, does he hope to return to music?
I don't know that he's thought that far ahead. The phrase he uses with me, and I can share it because he said that I could, is he says he feels he has more to give. And I think that's the focus. I think that he has spent a lot of time reflecting. He's a religious man. He's a man who has 7 children. He takes care of them, all of them. He takes care, one of the long-term relationships with whom he had 4 kids, has passed away, but the rest he takes good care of the women he's in a relationship with. He's really a very caring, dedicated person. And so I think he wants to emphasize that part of his life come out of jail, spend some great time with his children, who he misses very much. They get to see their dad. And I think he's going to be happy in the short term, having the simpler pleasures in life, but I expect he's a genius in my view, and he has unparalleled talent and ambition and vision. And I would say vision is probably the most pronounced of all those things. And I expect big things out of him. But I think we need to let him have a little transition, have some downtime. If I just spoke to him an hour ago. I said, I'm not going to rest until you feel the hot August sun on your neck, and have the simple things in life, and you can take it from there. And I think he sees the wisdom in that.
Mark, he really couldn't have a better advocate. I mean that sincerely, advocate to advocate. I was incredibly impressed with you and what I got to see and how passionately you've worked for him and his defense. One last question before I know we have to let you go. As you know, no cameras are allowed in federal court, and that's something I hope that changes one day. Tell me, if the public were able to have watched, do you think it would have perhaps changed any public opinions? In other words, is there anything you think the public might have missed in not being able to actually see?
Can you just pause it before she answers that?
That's a great question.
Even he said it's a great question. Pause that real quick. Yeah, her question, for those of you guys that missed it, her question was: this was a federal trial. There were no cameras allowed in the courtroom. There was no audio allowed in the courtroom, and she said if the public was allowed to watch what was taking place in the courtroom, do you think that would have changed the public's perception? And the answer is resounding yes. He even said that what a great question, because she was also in the courtroom, not all the days, but she was also in the courtroom. For those of us who are telling the truth, that came out of the courtroom telling the truth and had no bias one way or the next, you will know that a lot of other people were walking out there trying to spin a narrative because they know that you guys don't know. Right? Information is a very dangerous thing to have. Can you just rewind about 10 or 20 seconds so we can get that question again? This is her last question, and then we're going to get into the motion.
Him and his defense. One last question before I know we have to let you go. As you know, no cameras are allowed in federal court, and that's something I hope that changes one day. Tell me, if the public were able to have watched, do you think it would have perhaps changed any public opinions? In other words, is there anything you think the public might have missed in not being able to actually see the trial?
That's a great question, and it's such an interesting issue. I mean, there's something about federal court that's wonderfully traditional. They didn't have cameras in 1789 when the Southern District was created, and it hasn't changed. And there's so much about trying cases in federal court where things haven't changed, and there's so much about that that's wonderful. That all being said, I do think the public would have come to view Mr. Combs very differently than the way he was depicted in the tabloids and in these lawsuits, which lack merit. And I wish that they could have seen the evidence firsthand, the way the jury did. And one thing I want to throw out, I mean, not too much, but there's been a little second guessing I've seen of the jury verdict by some people in some publications. And this was an immensely dedicated jury. They were on time every day. They paid close attention. They all took notes. You can tell when a jury is really functioning at 100%, and this jury was. And I wish that everyone could have seen what the jury saw. I think that would have been very good for Mr. Combs and very appropriate for the world to have seen it with their own eyes.
Exactly.
Most definitely. And the respect you showed us in this interview that you're exuding for the other side. Everyone's just doing their job. The government did what they felt was best under the circumstances, following the law as they saw, and you all did your job advocating for your client. Mark Agnifilo, thank you so much for the conversation. I hope we can talk again sometime.
Thank you. I hope so too.
All right. Shout out Mark Agnifilo. I was blessed enough to be able to meet the man on two separate occasions. I met the rest of the legal team 3 separate occasions, but I didn't get to meet him when I was at the courts. The first time I met Mark Agnifilo, I told him, you guys are doing such a great job. Congratulations, all that. I said, the only thing you guys are missing is me. And I was joking. I said, the only thing you guys are missing on this legal team is me. And I said, because I I still have, like, I'm the juror. I'm the average juror. And he goes, what's so interesting? We were just talking about that. We were saying we were just missing you. Obviously, he was being sarcastic, but shout out Mark Agnifilo. He's doing an incredible job in 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 telling the public right now, relaying to the jury, and explaining to all of us what is really going on. All right, so let's get into this motion. And unfortunately,
to
we couldn't.
Google, and you can
Yeah, yeah.
find
No, no, not
everything
this.
out
The
on
motion,
Google
the motion, the
as a
motion. Yeah. Guys, unfortunately, we don't have the actual motion. So we're gonna have to go with parts of the motion. So we put together different parts that we were able to find. We put together different parts. Do you have the parts that we put together, see? Because right now this just looks like the ABC thing. Do you have the parts that we're able to put
Yeah,
together?
I have it, but they
Let's
won't
just
be
get
able
they won't what? Sorry?
they won't be able to see it. I'll just read it.
Okay. Why wouldn't they be able to see it?
Oh, because I
Yeah.
didn't put it in the document.
All right.
I still got it
So
in.
so I'll read this in the meantime, put in the document, because we want the people to see it, to be able to read it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So I'll read this. Can you just put this full on the screen? Because I have a small screen here. It's my secondary screen. All right. So I'm going to read this ABC News article. I don't like reading articles because if we've learned anything at all, obviously you guys know that at the end of the day, they spin things the way they want to spin it. So that's the reason why we created a separate document, which I guess wasn't put in a PDF, but that's why we created something separate, so we can get all the facts and not have them spin their narratives. But I'll read the article regardless. Okay. I'll read the article regardless. This is from ABC News. Attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs late Wednesday filed a motion asking that Combs' conviction earlier this month be thrown out, or, barring that he be given a new trial. Now, this motion is huge. And the reason why is because if he's given a new trial, that's even more merit for bail. It's even more merit for bail. The bail hearing, the bail motion that they filed the other day, that is important, 100%. But that's just bail um, in lieu of sentencing, right? Like, so until he's gets his sentencing on October the 3rd, he's just going to be able to go home. We talked about that the other day, so I'm not going to get into it. If you want to listen to more about that particular motion that hasn't been rejected or denied, I should say, or accepted or granted, if you want to look at that, you can go to that video. But my point is, this one is different because in this one, he will get bail. There's virtually nobody who hasn't gotten bail when they're waiting for their charges for the Mann Act. All right. So if they say, yes, you can get another trial, which, by the way, I'm going to let the cat out the bag early. I think this motion is going to be denied, to be honest with you. I don't think it should, but I think it will, because this is a huge motion. To throw out the jury's verdict is a huge motion. However, the reason why they're doing this, and I told you guys this before when they were filing those motions during the trial, like the motion to get a mistrial, the motion to throw everything out, the motion to I think there was another a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, he's begging or he's pleading." What this is so when they go to the appellate courts to appeal, they say we brought this up. So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves with this. I hate to burst any bubbles, but in all likelihood, this is a motion that's being filed so that when they go to appeal these charges, they're able to say the judge. We even asked the judge to throw it out or give us a new trial because it was so foolish that they even convicted him of this in the first place. It was so foolish that they convicted him of this in the first place. So that's the reason why, guys. You could put me on the side of the screen. See, because I want to be able to the people to see my facial expressions. No, that's too. That's thank you. That's too big. I still need to be able to read it. Yeah. So that's the reason. Thank you. So that's the reason why, guys, they're filing this. I know a lot of people feel like they're filing this because they want Puffy out right away. This is a long shot. This is a longer shot than the bail. He's more likely to get the bail motion than he's likely to get this motion granted. All right. So the 62-page motion filed with the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York argues in part that the Mann Act, the law under which Combs was convicted on July 2nd on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, was too broadly interpreted to apply to Combs because there was insufficient evidence that Mr. Combs transported anyone with that intent to engage in prostitution, even if it includes any S for money. What word is that? It lies. I don't even know how to pronounce that word. Any is included in the filing. Now, here's the thing, guys. I've been saying that me personally, I believe that the prosecution kind of didn't go hard on the Mann Act because they had other plans. They wanted to make sure that he got off on the S trafficking and the RICO, and they kind of threw in, not I shouldn't say the prosecution, started defense, my bad. They kind of threw the Mann Act like, hey, we'll give you a few arguments here or there, but we're not going hard on it because we want to get him off on the S trafficking and the RICO, and we know some jurors might want to get him on something. So let's make it easy for the jurors to get him on something so they could feel good about it. It's almost like when, like, in sports, or if you're playing a particular game. I do it all the time. It's one of my strategies. Okay, now everybody knows, whatever. The world knows some of my strategies. Sometimes I'll give you a point or two. I'll give you a point or two in a game. I'll give you a point or two in sports. I'll give you a few things because I know that I want you to be doing exactly what I want you to do. And if I give you nothing, you might go to extreme measures in order to get something. You might go into extreme measures in order to get something. It's not always good to whoop somebody's ass to a pulp. You got to throw them a little 1-2 so you keep them in the lines that you want to be on. Now, you guys learned something. I know a lot of you guys probably already knew this, to be honest. But that's how I move, and that's why I'm thinking that's how they were moving. Sometimes it's not good to beat somebody to a pulp. Give them the little Mann Act thing. We'll figure that out later. But we don't want them to get him on these two big charges. That was my theory. I don't know. I don't have any inside information. That's just my theory because that's what I would have did. I would have been like, if we win on everything, that's a long shot. Let's just throw the Mann Act. We'll deal with that later, and we'll get these charges. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because this information that we're about to read, actually supports my theory, because they bring up arguments in this information that we're about to read that they never brought up in the closing arguments. They never brought these things up. Now, I do believe that Mark Agnifilo did a remarkable job of humanizing Puff and relating to the jury and making them understand things. However, he didn't go that crazy on the Mann Act the way he went at the sex trafficking and the RICO. So to me, I believe that I'm right about that, because we're about to read some stuff that, where is it? Yeah, we're about to read some stuff that they didn't mention in the closing arguments. All right. So scroll up a little bit, please, sir. Thank you. No, yeah, thank you. The 62-page motion filed with the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York argues that, argues in part that the Mann Act, the law under which Combs was convicted July 2nd. Did I read this part? Yeah, I read this part already. Sorry. The motion further argues that the Mann Act doesn't prohibit Combs' conduct because he lacked, quote unquote, lacked a commercial motive and did not intend for paid escorts to have S with him. Okay, this is a direct quote from it. He lacked a commercial motive and did not intend for escorts to have S with him. Now, a commercial motive simply means he wasn't trying to make money from it, and he simply did not have S with any of the escorts. So he, you know how people say a John, a John, a John. You've heard that before, like, oh well, he was the John, which means that he was the one paying. He technically really wasn't a John because a John usually pays for S, right? There's the S worker, and then there's the John. The John pays to have S with the S worker, right? So he really isn't really a John in the technical term. He's a John in the sense that he paid, but he's not in the John in the sense that he gained, right? So I guess he gained in the sense that he gained through his voyeurism, but he didn't gain. And it's so crazy that we're even having this conversation. They really did. I'm convinced they really did do this to just embarrass the man. They really did do this to embarrass the man. Because now we're talking about this man's S life and if he's a voyeur or not a voyeur. This is his personal S life. This is crazy that we're even talking about. I just feel stupid even talking about, to be honest with you. I shouldn't be talking about what a person that I don't even, anybody's S life, let alone a person who I don't even know. Like, I don't even know this person. And his S life is all in the media, all in the news. They're really trying to embarrass this guy. It's crazy. Anyways. So, yeah, so he lacks to go with him. Okay, with the italics, again, a part of the filing, the motion also states that upholding the convictions would violate the First Amendment because paying people to film them in S performances is protected by the First Amendment. There you go. You know what that means, guys? Can you write it in the chat? It's the adult film industry. That's exactly what we're talking about. I've been saying this. If you guys stick around, we're going to play my Manac stuff, my Manac video at the end. I've been saying this. So how do you think the adult film industry works? How do you think that works? Why aren't they all being convicted of the Mann Act? You're now trying to set a brand new precedent. Why aren't they being convicted of the Mann Act? At minimum, a new trial is required. The filing argues due to spillover prejudice from evidence that would have been inadmissible, right? Like the video, right? Like the video, like 90% of the evidence in this trial. It would have been inadmissible if he was just only being charged with the Mann Act. Evidence that would have been inadmissible had the Mann Act counts been tried alone. That is, the evidence introduced attempting to prove the 2 counts of S trafficking and 1 count of racketeering conspiracy on which Combs was acquitted was inflammatory and was not admissible to prove the Mann Act counts. These are all facts. These are all facts, people. These are all facts. And this is why, for us, we break it down here. We read these quotes. We put the stuff all together, right? And we don't put any sauce on it. We let you guys decide on your own. Now, after we go through this, I'd like for you guys to tell me if you think that he should be acquitted from this or not. Some of you guys probably already think so. I don't even think he should have been charged for it in the first place. At minimum, he deserves another trial. In which case, that's when I believe he would get bail. But again, guys, I don't believe that this will be granted. I believe that the defense is doing their due diligence because they're supposed to do this. But these are good arguments for an appeal. These are good arguments in the appellate court. Okay. Now, I've told you from the start. You guys can go back to the day the verdict was read. I told you from the start that he will win in an appellate court, and they're setting this up. They're setting that up right now. Where are we? Okay. So the jury in Combs' trial acquitted the hip hop mogul and businessman. Okay, we don't need that. We don't need Wednesday evenings filings. We don't need those. Everything else, this is not from the actual indictment. Let's go down. All this is just what they want to say. None of this is from the actual indictment. Right here. Here's from the actual indictment. There has not indictment, sorry, motion. This is from the actual motion. There has literally never been a case like this one, where a person and his girlfriend arrange for adult men to have consensual relations with the adult long-term girlfriend as part of a demonstrated swingers lifestyle. So this is from the bail. It's probably in this motion as well, but uh, this exact part is also from the motion for him to get bail. You got something, Stacey?
I was gonna pull up the document that we put together, but I want to shout out a few people first.
Yeah, of course.
Chocolate 25 LM, thank you so much for the super sticker. Donald Davis, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the sticker. Tyra, thank you so much for the super chat. Tyra says, great show, so much integrity and knowledge. Mac Jetson, thank you so much for the super chat.
Thank you.
And China G, it's been a while, China G.
China G, day ones.
When does the China G, thank you so much for the super chat. China G
Thank
says,
you.
when does the judge have to respond by?
China G, if you're talking about the what do you call it? The bail motion, that's tomorrow. The judge gave the prosecution, I believe, until tomorrow to respond to the bail motion. So I guess the judge can make up his mind tomorrow or Monday. Because as far as my knowledge, and you guys have to remember, I'm a little bit behind sometimes because I'm kind of plugged out all day working. So I catch up afterward. But from what I read before when we were preparing for this, the judge has until tomorrow. Well, sorry, the prosecution has until tomorrow to get back to the bail stuff. As far as this motion, I'm sure this is going to be next week. And the way motions work, the way motions worked for me when I was representing myself, it was actually you go to court and then you file your motion, but then you go to court and then you explain the motion, and then the other person gives you a rebuttal for the motion. The way it is in this particular federal court is that they just send it to the judge. They just send everything to the judge. I don't know when that changed or if that was always how it was because I'm not a lawyer. But when I was doing my thing, it was literally you file your motion, but then you also speak about your motion in front of the judge. And the judge might ask you specific questions about your motion, and then the prosecution goes ahead and they rebuttal the things about your motion that they disagree with, and then the judge makes his decision or her decision right there and then. In this case, that's not how it goes. So I hope that answers your question. Um, ES says it doesn't let me send a link on this chat. You see
Yeah, I'm
that?
trying to get it. I'm trying to get the actual indictment because he or she found it. So I'm trying to, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm dropping the email in the email in the chat. Just send it to the email because I
Yeah,
tried
if you send
sending the
yeah, if
internet.
you send it to our email.
Might be
Sorry to
because of
speak
the
over
internet.
you.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yes,
Yeah,
send.
if you send it to our email.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So just drop that on the screen. And thank you, ES, for supplying that for our chat. Also, guys, ES, if you give us the green light, don't want to put you on the spot, but if you give us the green light, we'll also um, maybe drop a link where other people can download it too and view it themselves. You let me know if we have the green light to do that, and we'll do that as well. All right, let's get into that document.
Still waiting for it to come in. I haven't received it as yet. But I will pull up the one that I had put together in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that document. I'm talking about the one you put together.
Oh, okay. Here it is.
All right, so go. Why
Let
don't
me
you
just.
read this for us, and then I'll stop you here and there. But we just basically all we did, guys, is our research. We just put it all in one, so it's just all a summary of what was in the indictment as per what we found. But we will have the actual indictment soon enough, and we'll break that down for y'all.
Yeah. So it says attorneys from Sean Diddy Combs filed a sweeping 62-page motion in federal court requesting that 2 of his convictions related to the Federal Mann Act be overturned, or alternatively that he be granted a new limited trial. The motion hinges on a series of arguments aimed at dismantling the government's portrayal of Combs as a sex trafficker, instead framing him as a consistent adult engaged consenting adult engaged in expressive private acts protected under the First Amendment. The defense's strategy, which is private performance, is not prostitution. That's what they claimed. At the heart of the motion is.
Can you just sorry to just want to stop right there before you get to the next paragraph. I want you guys to keep in mind that this Mann Act is for Cassie and Jane. Like, this Mann Act charge is crazy because it's for Cassie and Jane. I know a lot of people say, yeah, but the S workers, it was clear that he paid for this person's flight or paid for that person's flight and stuff like that. This was one count of Mann Act as it regards to Cassie, or pertains, I should say, to Cassie, and one count of the Mann Act as it pertains to Jane. Let's just be clear. Continue.
Okay. Give me just a second. Yes, if you're listening, there was a typo in the email that you sent it to initially. I dropped the new one. It's conversationswithj@gmail.com. So you can send it. And anybody else, if they have it right on hand, if they want to send it to you, can just send it, just in case, whichever one comes in first.
Exactly, Tanya V. Cassie and Jane are not prostitutes. So it gets a little bit weird, right? Because that's what the defense is saying, right? They're saying, because the Mann Act, and we're going to play that Mann Act video at the end of this live, but the Mann Act is basically, if you're transporting with the intention that the person you're transporting will be having commercial S with somebody else. So the other person technically could be the prostitute, because it's still, if you're trading S for money, that's the commercial act of S. That's commercial S. If you're trading S for money. My thing is, altogether, S was not traded for money. Now, clearly, the defense, they're not going down this road because they don't bring it up in this particular indictment. I keep saying indictment, motion, sorry. They don't bring it up in this particular motion. So clearly they're not going down that route. But if I was a juror, I would be like, well, they got paid either way. It's like, I pay you to come here. I pay you to be here. And if you want to do a little 1-2, do a little 1-2. If you don't, I probably won't bring you back, but you're going to get paid anyway. Continue.
Yeah, so there was something that I was reading earlier, which seemed like it was a part of the motion as well, but it's not in this article that I put together. But it said that the sexual performances that occurred during freak-offs and hotel nights are materially indistinguishable from, and indeed can be considered a form of adult pornography. This type of content is now ubiquitous on both unpaid, example Pornhub, and paid, example OnlyFans channels. So that was something I said.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
They
go.
mentioned that in the indictment.
Mm-hmm. So at the heart of the motion is the claim that Combs' actions, while sexually explicit and filmed, do not constitute a violation of the Mann Act. His attorneys argue that the encounters in question were private, consensual sexual performances involving adults, recorded exclusively for Combs' personal use. They assert that there was no commercial transaction, no coercion, and no trafficking component involved in these acts. And this was a direct quote from the motion. There is no evidence that Mr. Combs ever engaged in a commercial S act or that any money changed hands, the motion states. Combs' legal team draws a sharp distinction between prostitution and private sexual expressions describing events as intimate lifestyle choices that may appear unconventional but are not criminal. The defense insists that the individuals involved, most notably Jane Doe and singer Cassie Ventura, were not sex workers and were never paid for sex.
That's what Tanya V was just saying,
Yeah.
right? Tanya V just said that they were not sex workers, right? So that's what they're also saying in the motion. They were not sex workers. So this whole thing, I would say this: if you're on here and you've ever flown somebody out, if Puff beats this, gets either a retrial or gets this acquittal, if he beats this, he literally saved all y'all. Right? He prevented a new precedent from being set, because this particular thing that's happening, this would set a whole new precedent on an act that's over 100 years old. Excuse me. I think it's 110, 115 years old. Right? We're going backwards now. We're going backwards. We live in a different world than we did 100 plus years ago. Right? Where the whole entire culture and the way we look at is different. The way we move around the world is different. The convenience in which we do so is different. Everything is different at this point in time. So you're using 100 plus year old thing that has only had a couple adjustments, which only made it more broad, which made it actually worse. 100 plus year old thing to convict somebody who's doing something that thousands, tens of, probably tens of thousands of people are doing right now today. And I get it. A lot of people are like, yeah, but it's still illegal. I've given this example before, but you know what's illegal? You know when your grandmother has to take her blood pressure medication or diabetes medication and her this vitamins and that medication. She has like 5 prescription medications that she has to pick up from the pharmacy, and she brings them all home. And she has that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think I have that actually right here. Hold up. I think I have that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing right here. I do. It's right here.
Jay, I have the actual motion.
Yeah.
You want me to go ahead and pull that up?
Yeah, you pull up. This right here. You see this right here? It has the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the pills right there. Now these aren't prescription medication, but Granny be putting these in, taking them out of the actual container that she got them in, right? From the pharmacy, and puts, this is my Monday pills, my Tuesday, my Wednesday, my Thursday, my Friday, my Saturday, my Sunday, right? That is a federal crime. That is a federal crime. I repeat one more time. That is a federal crime, because you're not allowed to take a prescription pill out of the actual original container that it was provided to you in and put it into another container. Into another container. You're not allowed to do that. So for those of you who say, well, the law is the law, well, then lock up 30% of grandmothers in the United States then. How will we do that? Because all logic goes out the window. It's interesting how all logic goes out the window when you just want to prove your point, or when you just don't like somebody, or you just want somebody to suffer or go down. All logic goes out the window. But when it's you and your family and your loved ones, all of a sudden we start just making sure that, oh, well, but technically, well, this is what it's not, was, it wasn't meant for this, and it wasn't meant for that, and it wasn't, yes, but everybody does it and this is normal. Well, then you have to prosecute. Oh, you got the arguments now. When it's you or people you love, now you got all kind of creative arguments we didn't even think of. But when it's somebody you want to go down or you don't like, oh, the law is the law. The law is the law. Remember the other live that we had a few days ago, either yesterday or the day before, right? The law is the law was another thing that all of these pundits say. They all say the same stuff. That they don't have creative thought process. They don't have creative minds. They all say the same things. All right. So guys, we won't go through the whole 62-page of indictment. However, thank you so much for providing this, ES. All right. Uh, excuse me. I want you just to read the introduction first, and then we'll take certain parts of this and we'll highlight certain parts of this that are the best parts to be topping.
Yeah, sure.
Thank
So
you.
this is the introduction. It says, since the government arrested Sean Combs last September, it has painted him as a monster. For months, prosecutors accused him of running a 20-year racketeer enterprise and of sex trafficking multiple women. But his 2-month trial showed these charges were not supported by credible evidence, and the jury rejected them. Mr. Combs now stands convicted of only 2 prostitution counts under the Mann Act, which doesn't require proof of coercion, threats, or fraud. The government told the jury it had to convict so long as Mr. Combs arranged for a long-time girlfriend or a paid male escort or entertainer to travel across state lines to get together and have S. And that is all the jury convicted him for. To our knowledge, Mr. Combs is the only person ever convicted of violating the statute for conducting anything like this. It is undisputed
Can you
that
pause real quick? Sorry. And guys, the reason why it says to our knowledge, and you could see Mark Agnifilo said it in the interview that we opened up this live with. He said, we've done the surveys from every single case. I think he said, excuse me, they're 99% there, or sorry, 90% there or something like that. So it's unlikely that they're even gonna they're doing this a little bit prematurely, but the government is really gonna have to dig for something like this. Sorry guys, there's some smoke that just came in here. I'm in front of a window. Go ahead.
sure. Taking statute. Okay. It is undisputed that he had no commercial motive and that all involved were adults. The men chose to travel and engage in the activity voluntarily. The verdict confirms the women were not vulnerable or exploited or trafficked or sexually assaulted during the freak-offs or hotel nights. And Mr. Combs never had sex with the supposed prostitutes. We are aware of no other case in which a person was convicted under 18 U.S.C. That whole thing, even though he made no money from the prostitution, didn't have sex with the alleged prostitutes, and didn't arrange the transportation with the intent of committing sexual assault, sexual trafficking, or a S crime involving a minor. Indeed, under long-standing Department of Justice policy, Mann Act charges are not filed in similar circumstances.
Pause
In
it.
short,
Pause it.
it's not a
Hey
video.
yo, my bad. Pause your reading. You sound like a video sometimes when you read.
Oh, shots fired.
No, that's a compliment. Guys, you don't have to. Don't tell me. Don't tell me because I don't want anybody convicted of the Mann Act. But it's kind of crazy. I've not done it, but it's kind of crazy if you say to your girl or your boy, your significant other, hey yo, we've been together for 25 years. We've been just doing the same thing since we met. You want to try a little something, spice up the relationship a little bit? Like, you want to spice up the relationship a little bit? Well, what do you mean? Well, I heard that there's this thing, Cowboys for Angels, and we could hire somebody and they'll kind of give us a little dance and do a little thing and, woo, woo, woo. And then maybe we can later on ask them, hey, you want to get down a little bit? We'll see how the vibes go, that kind of stuff. We're going on vacation soon, right? We're going to New Orleans. Shout out Cali and Cali Nola. We're going from California to New Orleans. Let's see if they have these services here. Oh, you mean a prostitute? No, not an prostitute. This is service, like an escort service. It's perfectly legal. And we can hire one of those people to come and give us a little dance. And maybe one thing leads to the next. Who knows? But let's spice it up a little bit. All right. Let's try it. We're on vacation. Maybe this will get us out of our rut. So you booked a flight for your man or your woman. Jump on the plane. Y'all go Cowboys for Angels, New Orleans. Then you get there. Person comes, give a little dance, rub a little baby oil, right? One thing leads to the next, and your girl says, you have to say your guy, your girl says, do you mind if I 1, 2, 3? And you're in a rut in your relationship. You're like, I don't know, man. As long as I can watch. Okay. One thing happens. Next thing happens. Next thing you know, on your door. You open your door. Hello, sir. How can I help you? Are you Sean Puffy Combs? Yes, I am. You're under arrest for the Mann Act. Is this a joke? Is this a joke? Because this is what this guy is getting arrested for. Is this a joke? This is crazy. But if you talk to the people in mainstream, well, the law is the law, and you have to know the law. And get out of here, man. What are we talking about? Anyways, let's continue with this indictment, please. Thank you.
Not indictment, but yeah.
Sorry, motion. I keep saying indictment. It's just in my head. But let's continue with it. But that's what we're talking about. That's all I'm saying. That's what we're talking about. That's crazy. That's what we're talking about. Go ahead.
So the introduction closes out with, in short, this conviction stands alone, but it should not stand at all. First application of the Mann Act in these circumstances is unprecedented. Construing it to reach Mr. Combs' conduct would raise serious fear, notice, and discriminatory enforcement concern. And then they cited a case.
Exactly. So and this goes to what Mark Garagos was saying. The government has no business being in our bedrooms. That's what Mark Garagos said. He said this case is basically a joke because the government has no business being in our bedrooms and policing the way we get down.
Yeah, so he continues by talking about this case and make the point. All right. So let's go to the second part. It says, second, even if prostitution includes a defendant who pays to observe two other people having sex with each other, the evidence was insufficient to show that Mr. Combs had any such intent. The proof at trial showed that he typically hired the services of male escorts or dancers, advertised openly through lawful businesses, that the men were paid for their time, and that they enjoyed the activities and had friendships with Miss Ventura and Jane, and were not traveling to have S for money.
Correct. They had friendships with them. Remember this? Put me on the screen big. You guys remember this? Jane saying, and then we were just having a great time. And I turned to Sean and I said, I miss Paul. And the prosecutor says, why did you say that? Because at the time I really genuinely missed him. You guys remember that? Remember the first one, Cabral? Remember the first one, Cabral? When they found him and flew him out, and Jane said they went on a date before she brought him to Puff? They went on a date. Y'all, this is not that. These are some of these women had friendships with these guys. Not some of them, both of these women had friendships with the guys. Continue, please.
Yep. And then third, if the statute is interpreted to cover Mr. Combs' conduct, his conviction must be reversed because it violates the First Amendment. The Freakoffs.
Oh, we can't see the thing.
Oops,
It's all good.
my bad. My bad. Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
So
wait, before you continue, I see a bunch of purple hearts. I know that must be Queen Amadea. Shout out Queen Amadea Shakur. Yeah, thank you so much. Queen, I'll be honest with you. I saw you went on live at 6. We were supposed to go on live at 6. I pushed it back for you. I was like, we can't compete with the Queen. I said we can't compete with the Queen. We gotta push this back. Queen is like Taylor Swift. Make us push our album to next week. Shout out to you, Queen.
all right. While we're on that topic, shout out to Measured Man. Thank you so much for the super chat. Measured Man says, facts. She wrote a salacious book to sell, so she had to make her lies match the lawsuit and book.
Yes, 110%. She did. That's a fact, and that's what I was telling Torre when I was speaking to him. I said, "This is what happened. She wrote this book. She had to stick to it, and it was salacious in itself. And she was trying to sell to sell that book, and then she had to stick to everything that she wrote in the book because that then ended up going to lawsuit. But then when that ended up going in the lawsuit, she had to stick on the stand. She had to stick to everything she said in the lawsuit, and then that's when everything started sort of contradicted because some of the things that she said in the lawsuit, like the balcony incident, was different than it was when what she said on the stand. So she got caught in her lies because that all came from a book. It was all developed off of lies in the first place. The book turned into a lawsuit. The lawsuit turned into her on the stand. So she had to stick to the lies. All right.
Mhm.
100%. Queen says, thanks, beloved. I appreciate you. We have to collab again soon. Yeah, 100%. Y'all go follow the original Queen Amadea Shakur. You guys go follow her. She has amazing, amazing content. She's been doing this a lot longer than me, so she's a much better and much more polished than I am. And she has such a great outlook in and great perspective of our culture, our life. Queen, I watched your video the other day on the boycotting African, I think it was African hair salons and stuff. And I appreciated that story that you told us about the Asian hair salons. So I learned something in that video. Y'all go follow Queen Amadea Shakur. All right, let's continue.
Okay. So third, if the statute is interpreted to cover Mr. Combs' conduct, his conviction must be reversed because it violates the First Amendment. The freak-offs and hotel nights were performances that he or his girlfriends typically videotaped so they could watch them later. In other words, he was producing amateur pornography for later private viewing.
Ooh, damn. What a great point. Because at the end of the day, you ain't locking up the owner of those websites. You're not locking up the owner of OnlyFans. Well, in that case, then every OnlyFans model who's ever traveled across state lines to do a video, to do a as they say collab. If any OnlyFans person has done that, well, lock them up too. What precedent are you setting? He videotaped them for his own pleasure later. Is that not adult film? How is that different than an adult film? Let's continue.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Measured Man. Measured Man says, smash the likes and share. We need truth in the algorithm. Yes, guys, if you're just filing in and
Yes.
you haven't liked the video already, remember to hit up that like button and share it to anybody that you feel needs to hear this.
Shout out to you, Measure Man. I appreciate that 100%.
All right. So, yeah, it says this is protected First Amendment conduct that no substantial government interest justifies prohibiting, since the films depicted adults voluntarily engaging in consensual activity. Fourth, if the court declines to grant an acquittal, a new trial is required under Rule 33 due to severe spillover prejudice from reams of inflammatory evidence. This evidence, particularly the intercontinental footage, was admissible only because of the RICO and S trafficking charges. It would never
Exactly.
have been admitted at a trial solely on the Mann Act counts, as it was irrelevant and unfairly prejudicial.
So let me stop you there. This is the important part. This is what the judge found a loophole with denying him bail when he was found innocent on the major charge. Sorry, not innocent, not guilty on the major charges. The judge found a loophole because he, and this is, in my opinion, I told you guys this on either yesterday or the day before. These lives are all blurring together. But I told you guys this earlier this week. In my opinion, the judge had all the information he needed to decide whether Puff was going to make bail or not. Okay. He had all that information because the only reason he gave was that the defense attorneys already admitted that he was a domestically violent person. But he knew that before he said, let's take a break, and then extended that break to like 3, 4, 5 hours before he made his decision. Why would you do that when you when you ended up making a decision with evidence you already had? To me, you went, got the call from upstairs, right? That's why I feel like they hired a newbie judge so that they can use him as a puppet. That's my theory. I don't know if this is true. I have no evidence. Nobody's told me this. This is just what I think. I think they hired a newbie judge so they could pull some strings because an old goat ain't gonna do it. An old goat ain't gonna do it. The new judge, 40-year-old judge, whatever, first big case, he'll do it. But the old goat ain't gonna do it. So they made a newbie judge take this case, and then they pulled the strings. So he had to wait for calls or emails or speak to his authorities, his mentors or whoever, whatever. And then he came back with the decision. But what were they doing the entire time? They said, well, we can't use the Cassie video because he was acquitted of S trafficking, and that video was only able to be admitted in evidence because of the S trafficking. So it was acquitted. So how can we keep this guy in prison or in jail, I should say, although it's a federal jail, it's kind of like a prison. How could we keep him locked up? Let's just put it that way. They sat there, they thought, they sat there, they thought. They couldn't find precedents. They couldn't find anything that would justify it. So what did they come back and say? The judge came back and said, well, it was you guys, the defense, that admitted that your client was domestically violent 9 years ago. That's the best they could come up with. Why did they have to extend the time? If you guys remember, I was there at the court on live. You guys can look back at the verdict day. I was at the court on live. And then went up. We waited there for like an hour. We were all waiting in there to see if he got bail. Then they told us, you guys, you got to leave the premises, leave. We're going to have to wait. And then what happened? It got pushed back again. And I think it was like not until like 5 or 6 o'clock that they came back with it. And he just said something he already knew all the time. So what does that tell me? It tells me personally, just me. I'm not saying this is true. This is how my brain works. What it tells me is that they were trying to find a way to keep him locked up, and it took them a little while, and the best they could come up with was something that they already knew. Something that they already knew, especially because the judge was talking to him as if, you want to go home today, right? Like, you probably don't want to go back to jail. And Puff is like, no, I don't. Of course not. And the judge like, all right. So you're having that conversation with the man, and then you come back and say, I'm denying you bail based on information I had before I left? That don't make no sense to me. Critical thinking, y'all. There's something on the screen that I might have missed.
Yeah, so there's a few people, including Freedom 557. They were asking if you heard anything about the bail, or any response.
Not as yet. We're waiting for the prosecution response before the judge makes his decision. Yeah. All right, let's get this back on the screen.
All right. Okay, so it would never have been admitted at a trial solely on the Mann counts, as it was irrelevant and fairly prejudicial. Under the Second Circuit's retroactive misjoinder doctrine, a new trial limited to evidence admissible to prove the Mann Act charges is warranted. Sean Combs sits in jail based on evidence that he paid adult male escorts and entertainers who engage in consensual activities with his former girlfriends, which is videotaped and later watched with the girlfriends. This is
So
not.
hold up, sorry. Do you see how they keep bringing up videotaped? Because later on in this motion, thank you so much for the motion, ES. Um, remember when we were taking little pieces of the motion and putting them together in the other articles before we got the actual motion, we kept seeing one thing that kept coming up, and that was the adult film industry, basically, right? So these lawyers are just lawyering. The lawyers are lawyering. They're amazing. They are saying that he's akin to an adult film director. That's basically what they're saying. He's akin to an adult film director. That's why they keep bringing up that he videotaped. So then if you're going to do this with him, then you're going to have to do it with the whole adult film industry, because ain't nobody working over there for free. Ain't nobody working in the adult film industry for free. If they are, that's S trafficking. Right? So we're here now. These lawyers are putting this case parallel to the adult film industry. Now, we in our culture we've been putting this case. There's levels to this, right? So we are smart, and we know what we know. So we're putting this case next to flying people out. That's what we've been doing, right? At least I have. And I've seen a lot of other people, my friends, conversations I've spoken to other people about, or I've had with other people, I should say. However, that's our experience, right? What the defense has done is they have aligned it not with fly out culture, quote unquote. They've aligned it with $1 billion industry, the adult film industry. They're attaching this conviction to the adult film industry. That is huge. You know why? Because we in our culture don't have that type of power. But the adult film industry, the adult film industry is mostly ran by people who don't look like us. Or at least me, I should say. So, and when I say us, I'm speaking about us because this is a puff trial. So, as the lawyer, he's saying, look, it's not about rap culture, or Puff is a rapper. It's not about rich black culture, although Puff is rich and black. This is about the entire adult film industry. They're attaching it to that. Because if you can convict him for this, then you're gonna have to go through a lot of the adult film industry and convict everybody. But you won't. But you won't. You won't, will you? So now you're setting this precedent. That's why they keep bringing up videotaping. That's why they keep bringing up video. He recorded it. That's why they keep bringing that up. Because guess what? If this happens, then a whole can of worms is open that a lot of addicts don't want to happen. Continue.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Parker. Michael Parker says, thank you so much for the super chat, Michael.
Thank you,
Parker
Michael.
said, keep fighting the good fight. Your channel is a no spewing BS certified channel. Thank you so much.
100%. Yeah, we try. We try to make sure we're just talking the truth. And there's a difference between, I had a meeting about this earlier, and we pride ourselves on the artist, not the athlete in this channel. I had a conversation about this earlier. The artist, people subscribe to the artist because the artist is unfiltered. The athlete has to be politically correct. And Otherwise, they're not going to get the Nike deal. Otherwise, they're not going to get the Adidas. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to have a show after they retire. Otherwise, they're not going to be hired by ESPN. So they have to have this clean cut, whatever, whatever, whatever. But the artists don't give a damn. You either F with me or you don't F with me. And if you don't, go and kick rocks. Hit the dislike button on the way out. Because the people who F with us, F with us. And that's the artist. That's the musician. That's the painter. That's the artist. So I have other brands that are more the athlete type stuff. Clean, well cut, all that. But this here, you guys know, I give it to you raw, straight up, no chase. Don't fake. It's not even in my DNA. So thank you for that. I appreciate you recognizing that. Continue.
Yeah. C. Lachey says, I do find it odd a lot of the rich black men are being exposed after 30 some odd years of success. That's sus.
It is suspect. It is suspect. It is suspect. It's just weird. I mean, as soon as you start getting some sort of equity in the overall society, you start facing a lot of stuff. And that's what it seems like. Now, am I us versus them mentality? Hell no. The mentality I have is me versus me. So if we know this is happening, or if we even think this is happening, because I also haven't done enough research to say this is happening, but even if we think this is happening, it's more reason for, if you're a black man on here, as my dear mentioned, if you're a black man on here, it's more reason to be on your P's and Q's. It's more reason to be aware, more aware than ever. You gotta make sure that you're moving right down that lane. You can't veer to the left. You can't veer to the right. You may have different opinions and stuff like that, but you got to know the law. You got to be aware of the person that might line you up, like the way Shannon Sharp got lined up. You guys know that I went through that. You got to be aware of where people will attack you. You got to be aware. So if you really feel like that, I challenge you not to be a victim. I challenge you to take the power back, and I challenge you to make sure that you are on your P's and Q's. And I know I've had this conversation with a lot of young people, and they say, well, it's not fair. Why do I have to? Well, actually, it's better for you because you end up being sharper than the average person because you had to be. You end up being smarter. You see stuff 5, 6, 7, 10 steps ahead than the average person because you had to be. So all that quote unquote oppression does to you is make you better. So take it as an opportunity to become more powerful, not to take your power away. Let's continue on this.
All right. All right, and this is the last part of point 4 before they go into the background and stuff. So that is not prostitution, and if it is, his conviction is unconstitutional. The court should grant an acquittal or at an absolute minimum, a new trial on the Mann Act counts alone.
Because remember, they said that filming acts with all consenting adults is covered by your First Amendment right. That's why they said it's not constitutional. We can skip the background part.
It's a lot of background.
And again, shout out to ES for providing us with this document.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you so much for that. I don't know if because I'm in Jamaica, they didn't want to show me that information, but I scoured the internet. I wasn't able to find it. And a shout out to Measured Man. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you, and thank you so much for the wonderful message as well.
Thank you so much. And ES also says Daniel Phillips went on Art of Dialogue, and that's a podcast if y'all don't know, and said he ran a train on Cassie. It's a Cold World, man. Yeah, it's a cold world. 100%, it's a cold world.
All right.
And you know, by the way, guys, that Daniel Phillips guy, he said he basically actually admitted that he loved Cassie. So it is a cold world because that's how you treat a woman you love. He actually said he had feelings for her, like romantic love feelings for her.
Yeah, and now they're going into the legal standards. So it reads, on a defendant's motion or on its own, after the jury's verdict, a court shall enter a judgment of acquittal of any offense for which the evidence is insufficient to sustain a conviction. And they referenced Fed R. Crim, page 29, subsection A, subsection C. Although reasonable interference must be resolved in favor of the government, specious interference are not indulged, nor are interferences based on conjecture or pure speculation. United States versus
And
Mackey.
so that's more case law. But interference is not the same as speculation. Exactly. Exactly. Indeed, even responsible speculation is insufficient. Where jury's finding where a jury's finding rests only on quote unquote modest evidentiary showings, equivocal for attenuated evidence of guilt, or a combination of the three, it must be set aside. And then they have some more case law there. And then again, in short, the government must do more than introduce evidence at least as consistent with innocence as with guilt. So that's, yeah, whoa, 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 whoa. So no, down, please. If you just scroll down a little bit, please. Right there. Thank you. Oh, no, that's not important. All right, cool. So let's get into the argument. We'll probably get into one or two of these arguments, and then we're gonna call it a wrap for today. But I mean, it's out there that you guys can go and find a motion. Apparently, like, it's out there. So go ahead.
Yeah. And if any of you guys want the direct motion, you can always just shoot us an email and we'll send it to you guys as well. So this is the argument. There was insufficient evidence that Mr. Combs transported anyone with the intent to engage in prostitution. Mr. Combs was convicted of knowingly transporting an individual in interstate commerce with intent that such individual engage in prostitution. The two counts of conviction thus require that prostitution was the purpose of the interstate transport. The Mann Act does not define the term prostitution. A host of serious constitutional problems would be presented if the statutes were interpreted to cover the conduct of issue performances in which adult male escorts and Mr. Combs' adult girlfriends engage in consensual activities while he observed. The evidence showed Mr. Combs experienced these performances not as a typical John, but rather as a voyeur who filmed the performances. To avoid these constitutional concerns, the statute should be narrowly construed to apply only to defendants who have a commercial motive, or at the very least, only to Johns who pay a prostitute to have S with the John. Alternatively, even if prostitution includes paying money to watch two other people have consensual S, no reasonable juror could find the trial evidence sufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Combs intended to pay the escorts or entertainers for S as opposed to their time.
Exactly. That's what okay. So now that we have the actual motion, I take back what I said before. Remember before I said the argument of whether they were getting paid whether or not they had S. That's they just hit on the point right here. No reasonable jury. Can you read that part again from no reasonable jury? This is this. I didn't read I didn't have this entire motion. I was just taking pieces from a bunch of articles before, and we were piecing them together. But now that we have the entire motion, they did hit on that. Go ahead.
So, alternatively, even if prostitution includes paying money to watch two other people have consensual S, no reasonable juror could find the trial evidence sufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Combs intended to pay the escorts or entertainers for S as opposed to their time.
Exactly. So either I'm paying you to be here or I'm paying you for S. Shout out my boy Armand. He had one of the S workers on his channel. If you haven't watched that video, you should go watch it. We learned a lot from that person, and he seemed very credible. Now we wonder, all these other S workers that are doing interviews now, we're wondering, why in the world did the prosecution not call them? Well, once we watched the interview, because apparently there was like 50 to 100 of them. So they're calling them S workers. Really, they're just escorts. And what's happening is all of the ones that we're seeing are actually destroying the prosecution's case even more, which is the reason why they didn't call them. Even the ones they called destroyed the case. Even the ones they called said, oh no, she was a willing participant. Oh no, she used to hit me up alone. One of them, Daniel Phillips, said, oh, I loved her. Basically, I wanted to be in a relationship with her. I liked her like that. Daniel Phillips said, I would have done it for free. And there's times that I did. Right? The Punisher, what's his name? I forgot his actual name. The Punisher said, I never left New York. I wasn't transported anywhere. Right? They talked about transporting Paul and this person and that person. They went and tried to confuse the jury with all this flights and all this stuff, right? But Paul never took the stand. Cabral never took the stand. What's the next one name? Anton never took the stand. All the ones that they're claiming were transported never took the stand. So there's no sufficient evidence for that. And then we already laid out that these were his girlfriends having consensual S with people that they actually sometimes became friends with or were friends with. So who is being transported for prostitution? There's no sufficient evidence for that. There's no sufficient evidence to come to that conclusion. I'm sorry, there's not. Who's being transported for this alleged prostitution? There's no sufficient evidence. Read that part one more time, please.
Sure. Alternatively, even if prostitution includes paying money to watch two other people have consensual S, no reasonable juror could find the trial evidence sufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Combs intended to pay the escorts or entertainers for S as opposed to their time.
Exactly. You paid for their time. They chose to have S. It's very simple. And Comey and some of the other mainstream media channels, such as Law Crime and what's the other one that's being sued right now by Puff? The Banfield one. I forgot what that channel's called. That they're being sued by Puff right now. Pardon me?
It's Nation News or
News
something
Nation, News Nation. News Nation is being sued by Puff right now.
like that?
Law Crime.
Good.
All these people are out here saying just absolute nonsense. Saying, well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you're obviously not paying the person for their time and experience. You're clearly expecting them to have S. Me expecting and wanting something doesn't mean that that's what I'm paying for. That doesn't mean that's what I'm paying for. If I give, I'm on a date, and I give this girl the most wonderful date that she's ever had, and I'm hoping, and I'm wanting to have S at the end of the day, and best dinner, her favorite restaurant, her favorite flowers, her favorite experience, everything. At the end of the night, she says, "Oh, I'm so tired. I'm going to bed." Can I tell her, "Hey, yo, I paid for this, I paid for that, I paid for that, did all this stuff. Give me my money back"? No, I can't, because I didn't do that specifically for her to do what I wanted. I'll be disappointed maybe, but if that was my intention from the beginning, and it didn't work out, there's no way that I can turn it or flip it to say, hey, you owe me. Because she's not an prostitute. If it was an prostitute and I was in a part of Nevada that it is legal in, I could say, excuse me, I paid you to do X, Y, and Z. Either give me my money back or do X, Y, and Z. That is prostitution. Creating an experience and hoping that it goes the way you want to go is not prostitution. It's not prostitution, law and crime. It's not prostitution, News Nation. You created an experience and hoped it went the way you wanted it to go. And you paid somebody to be a part of that experience, and you paid them for their time and to be part of the experience. And if it doesn't go the way I want to go, I can't take my money back. I just hoped that it would go to another level. And if it doesn't, hold the L. That's not prostitution. That's paying somebody for their time and experience. And that has been what I've been saying from the beginning. From the start, that's what I've been saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, shout out to Tyra. Tyra says, thank you so much for the super chat. But Tyra
Thank you,
says,
Tyra.
JNC, keep up the great work. Integrity is huge. I hope you'll have a good evening to you and chat.
You as well, Tyra. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, let's get back into this. So now this is the Mann Act part. Let me see. Yep. So it says the Mann Act should be narrowly interpreted to avoid serious due process, First Amendment, and federalism problems. As explained, the 1986 amendment eliminated the immoral purpose and debauchery language on which Caminetti and Cleveland were principally based. See Sopra at 10.
We can skip through the case law. We can research the case law on our own time. Just go down.
Although those cases have been expressly overruled, their holdings that
we can scroll down. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get through as much of this as we can. Remember, I have an event today, so I want to get through as much of this as I can. Okay. No, we can keep going because they're just referencing what was in those cases right here. Yeah. Keep going. This is all case law here.
I wish I had the Jeopardy soundtrack to play at this moment.
Do 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 do
do do do.
What y'all know about Jeopardy out in Jamaica?
We had satellite at that point.
Yeah, you're in Jamaica. You had satellite or you stole satellite? Isn't that a big thing out there? Y'all be stealing satellite?
No. Don't misrepresent Jamaica, Jay. You're a Trini guy.
I won't. Okay, so okay, I get it. My bad. You know, the Caribbean doesn't steal satellite, guys. They just steal electricity.
Anyways, narrowly construed, the Mann Act does not proscribe Mr. Combs' conduct because he lacked a commercial motive and did not intend for paid escorts to have S with him.
Boom, with him. Again, this is such a different thing. He never wanted, these people were not, he wasn't a real John. These people were not hired to have S with him. Continue.
Yeah. So it says, under the properly combined definition of prostitution, the evidence was insufficient to prove Mr. Combs transported anyone for the purpose of prostitution. Mr. Combs was not a commercial purveyor of prostitution. The evidence showed he transported the escorts or entertainers and his girlfriend's interstate so they could enjoy S together while being observed. Even assuming Combs was paying for S, he was paying for their performances, not to participate in them directly. The videos
Even
of
so, you hear that? He's
Mhm.
saying even if he was, even if he was paying for prostitution, let's just assume for a second that Jay is totally wrong and he's paying for prostitution. Even if he was still paying for for them to perform for him, not for him to have prostitution with him, or to engage, I should say, in prostitution with him. Now, this is kind of like a side point. It's not a direct hit, but it's doing a little bit of damage. It's doing a little bit of damage. It's not a direct hit, but it kind of makes people think a little bit. Like, even if I was paying for prostitution, I mean, it's still quote unquote against the law, but it's not like I was paying for prostitution for me to engage in it. I'm just here watching. Continue.
All right. The videos of freak-offs and hotel nights and the testimony of several witnesses make clear Combs observed but did not participate in these live shows. Daniel Phillip, one escort, explained that at his first such meeting, Ventura told him that Combs wasn't going to try to touch Phillip or anything.
Exactly.
Every time.
Wait.
Mhm.
They said that with all of them. Even Jane, when she first met, I think it was Anton, was it, or Cabral? One of those two people was the first one. She said, she told him straight up, "Hey, yo, my man's gonna be there, and it's not a threesome. He's just gonna be there." Cassie, the same thing. She told the Punisher the first time, and I think the first 2 or 3 times, the Punisher did not even have S with Cassie. He said he wasn't comfortable doing it. She said, "Do whatever you're comfortable with." Everybody, sorry, both of the women told these escorts from the jump, he's not gonna be involved. He's just gonna be watching. He ain't doing nothing with them. He's just going to be watching. Continue.
Yep. Um, Every time Philip met with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs, Philip testified the purpose of the meeting was to have S with Cassie in front of Mr. Combs. Sheree
And can
Hayes.
we pause that real quick, just for y'all in that are watching this? Maybe you're watching it live right now. Maybe you're watching a replay. Just to let you know, to me, so I'm not a corn watcher myself. However, this is the most gangster thing ever. If you are one, this is the most gangster thing ever. So you don't watch your own videos, you make them. Like he has enough power and clout and money to say, you know what? I'm not gonna go into my bedroom or something, the bathroom or wherever people do their business, and do my business there with my little phone or my little computer or whatever. I'm gonna bring the entertainment to me and have a live show because I got it like that. And I'll take one of my girlfriends, and she's gonna be the star of the show. And she's gonna choose whatever dude she likes. And I'm gonna get that dude here and I'm gonna watch. So I know a lot of people try to like say that's sick. Why would you want that? This is disgusting. This, that. Well, I hope you who are saying that, I hope you're not a corn watcher. Because in the words of Sean G, his corn is better than yours. His corn is better than yours. All right. I hope you're not a corn watcher because he make you look like a loser. If you're hating on that and you are a corn watcher, he's making you look like a loser. He got the live show. It's like going to the basketball game, sitting courtside versus watching it on TV. Stop it. Knock it off. Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Um, Sheree Hayes, the other testifying escort, said he had similar experiences during the 8 to 12 times he had encounters with Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Combs. According to the witnesses, Combs enjoyed these performances and would masturbate while watching the escorts or entertainers have S with his girlfriends, and then he would have S with his girlfriends. Times they in brackets times they loved
Yeah,
love.
so all they're saying is they weren't doing it together. These and I know a lot of people call them threesomes, but they weren't threesomes. It's not like they were doing it together. Um, none of the the escorts went on the stand and said they were doing it together. It was that he would watch, they would do it their thing, then he would go into the room after, and then he would engage in S with Cassie or Jane after, the two of them. And this is also backed up by the text messages that were in the evidence. The text messages in the evidence was them talking about, I love when we have a freak off, and then you and I make love later, like after you take me into the room and make love to me after, like that was, and that's I think it was Cassie says my favorite part, or maybe it was Puff that said it was my favorite part, and Cassie said that's my favorite part too. So they're having conversations about this. So it's not just what was said on the stand; it's also backed up by the text messages in which they would go into the room and they would have their own private time by themselves. So this wasn't like a like you know an engagement. I don't know if, look, I don't know. Maybe it was an engagement sometimes, but that's not what came on. Say can pause. That's not what came out in the trial. That's not what was happening, and that's not what the evidence said in the trial. So that's, I just wanted to make that clear. Continue.
Yep. Um, it continued by saying he was nevertheless primarily a bystander to, not a direct participant in the S performance with the males. That is why the videos of freak-offs and hotel nights shows Combs' girlfriend, but not Combs himself, having S contact with the other men.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that, people? He's not even in the videos. Do you hear that evidence right there? Because this is the first time I'm hearing about this, because we weren't allowed to see the tapes. We weren't allowed to see them.
Which is funny too, because I saw C. Lachey, she made this comment, Jay. If you can see it, I put it
Like
up on.
everyone spared Diddy and didn't out him, but hiding his sexuality is what got him in this mess. Could be, could be. I don't know that everybody spared him and didn't out him, because Jane did say on the stand that she thought he was bi. Jane did say that on the stand. When asked, she said, I started researching a a cuck, and she said, but I don't think he's a cuck. I think that he is basically bi, and he's living his experience with a man through me. She said that. She said that in the stand, on the stand. So she did not spare him. She did not spare him. The whole courtroom, when I was like, everybody, like, ooh, she really, whoa. So yeah, not everybody, not everybody. Go ahead.
Ms. Ventura testified that
Oh,
very.
give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Shout out the reels in my head. Shout out the reels in my head. One of our day ones. She said, just watch a channel where the YouTuber blamed Damian Williams for all things, including Comey firing. Thoughts? I agree, 110%. I don't think Comey, that this was never Comey's case. This was never Comey's case to begin with. Um, she Damian Williams, you ever have a friend that's, I don't want to tell that story because I want him to look bad. You guys might see him one day. But you ever have a friend that starts a beef and then you take up for your friend, and then your friend runs and then you're left there fighting on your own? That's what Damian Williams did. That's exactly what Damian Williams did. He picked the fight. He is the one that green lighted everything with Puff. And then when it came down to it, this MF was out of here. And it was left to Comey and, as Mark Garagos would say, the six-pack of white women. And now they're taking the heat. But it was a black man that did this in the first place. So I 100% agree with Damian with that. I blame Damian Williams too. And where is he now? No statements, nothing. This guy just disappeared off the map once he realized his political career was in the toilet. I 100% agree with that. No, Letitia, no, he didn't get fired. As far as I know, he didn't get fired. He did not get fired. He resigned, as far as I understand, because he was doing this for political gains, because he thought that Trump was going to lose. He thought the Democrats were going to win, and he thought the Republicans were going to lose. As soon as the Republicans lost, this guy was out of there. Sorry, won. This guy was out of there. All right, let's continue.
Right. Miss Ventura testified that very early in their relationship, Combs explained the concept of voyeurism, which would involve him observing Ventura have sex with someone else. In turn, Ventura would tell escorts before freak-offs that Combs was into something called voyeurism and he likes to watch me with another man. Jane testified to the same pattern of Combs observing her with other men, although she described it not as voyeurism per se, but rather Combs being a cook. Example, a man who is in a relationship with a woman and he's turned on watching, yeah, you guys already know that. Jane said Combs would tell her that that's what he wants to see more of. That what he wants to see more of is me playing with myself and playing with the other man. This distinction between participatory S and voyeurism is typically irrelevant in Mann Act cases. As explained, the statute's draft.
Quick, just to give you a pause. There was that was the question. That was the question was, did Damian Williams get fired? And I just want to just read what I looked up. I just looked it up real quick, just so you guys know. Damian Williams was not fired. He resigned voluntarily from his position as U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of New York, effective 11:59 p.m. on December the 13th, which was just after the election. He formally announced his resignation on November the 25th, again, just after the election, describing it as bittersweet decision, proud of his accomplishments, but ready for the next chapter of his life. This departure happened ahead of President Trump's inauguration, likely in line with the customary transition of U.S. attorneys under new administrations. Much like his predecessor, Preet Bharara, or Bharara, I don't know how you pronounce that name, who was quote unquote fired in 2017 when the Trump administration took over. He did this thing for political gain. That's what he did. Damian Williams had plans to run for office. And when he realized that the Democrats lost, he left. He quit and he went on to whatever else he did. And then Comey inherited the case. I'm not sure that this would have happened under the current administration. That doesn't say anything good or even bad about the current administration. I just don't know if this would have happened in that current administration, because you have to remember a lot of the stuff behind the scenes is political, and we're not privy to a lot of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. We see a lot of stuff play out here in front of us, but we don't know what's going on back there. All right.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Measured Man. Thank you so much again for another super chat.
Thank you, Measured Man.
Measured Man says Williams set it up, but no, as a prosecutor, and looking at it, she had times to refuse the charges and she did not. So it is integrity for me. If you did not have the evidence, she had options.
I 100% agree with that, Measured Man. I 100%. And not only that, I'll add to that. You have you have the responsibility. I think as a prosecutor, you have to take an oath that you're going to fairly charge somebody. Like if you could clearly see that the evidence is not there, it's your responsibility under oath that you cannot go and prosecute that person. You have to truly believe that all the evidence is there. So we have to assume that you believed all the evidence is there. But then when we look at it, we're like, yeah, if you're smart enough to get here, then you're smart enough to know the evidence wasn't there. I just gave you guys a trademark. That was a good one, right? I didn't even mean to rhyme it. If you're smart enough to get here, then you're smart enough to know the evidence wasn't there. That's right up there with if it don't fit, you must acquit. All right, let's continue.
Yes, sir. All right.
And just to let you guys know, we're gonna be jumping out in about 5 minutes. I have an event I'm actually late to, so we're gonna jump out in about 5 minutes. But we'll continue with this stuff. Just keep your notifications on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're gonna continue with this stuff. There's a lot of news that's gonna be coming out in the next 7 days as it pertains to this. Continue.
Yes, exactly. And if you're just following, remember to smash that like button and then start over the video and watch it from the beginning.
Please
And
do.
remember to share it with somebody as well. Hopefully the next time we talk about this, it's not us preparing for, a retrial.
Give me a
That
sec. The reels in my head say if she had the choice to take the case, how is Damien responsible? The reason why the reels in my head, I believe that he's still responsible for it, is because it's different. It's different, right? If you're going to overtake something and you have to make the decision as to whether I'm going to continue on or not, the things that you weigh, the details that you weigh in the matter are different than the details that you weigh when it's, am I going to begin this or not? It's like if I'm weighing details as to whether I'm going to go to the gym today or not, that's one thing. But when I'm in the gym and I have my specific workout for today, and I'm tired, or I got injured, or my shoulder hurts, or the person was using the machine or the weights that I wanted. Now I have to wait and I have something to do. Now there's other factors that weigh as to whether I'm going to continue on with this workout or not. So that's the reason why I still blame him, because she would have, I don't believe with what was given that it would have been, that it would, this is my opinion, obviously, that it would have been pursued in the first place. And so that's just me. There's the evidence, the details, the factors that are weighed to make the decision are different than the factors that are weighed to continue on with the decision, which is brings it full circle, which is funny because that's exactly what happened to Cassie and Jane. The factors that they weighed to start the freak offs is different than the factors that was weighed to continue on with the freak offs. All right, bring it full circle. All right, let's continue. Let's
Yeah,
continue
what I was
for a
saying
couple
was
minutes. Go ahead.
the next time we talk about this is us not preparing to cover the trial, the retrial, but talking about the acquittal being approved. That would be great news. All right.
All right, let's stop here.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna close the chat. What I gotta get ready. So I'm gonna go and get ready. I'm gonna leave this open. I'm gonna leave this going. Can you please play the Mann Act video for anybody who hasn't seen it, where I break down what the Mann Act is, just so we have reference for anybody who's new here or doesn't really understand the Mann Act, hasn't looked up the statute or anything like that. Play the Mann Act video. I gotta go and get ready. And then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna come back in about 20-25 minutes and say goodbye to y'all. And let's keep the chat going, because I see most people are just speaking to each other, which I love. This is a community, and if you're new here, welcome to our community. And if you're a day one or somebody who's been here before, keep coming through. We're just building this community. All right. So let's play that Mann Act video. I got to go and get ready. It's about 20 minutes or something like that. I appreciate all y'all.
Always got to tell people and remind people.
You gotta
'Cause,
start it over.
I be in the courtroom all the time, and then people say, "Oh, are you?"
Yeah, Jade, the other part isn't necessary. It's just you explaining what it is. We don't want to confuse people because it's talking about what the current situation of the case was at the time.
Okay, I got you. No problem. Thank you.
a lawyer, or on the YouTube videos that I do on either our channel or other channel, we get comments like, he thinks he's a lawyer. Hey guys, I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm going to say it 1,000 times more. If you yourself are a trial lawyer or something, close to a trial lawyer, I definitely respect that. And I respect anybody who's put time into anything. Let's just be clear. If you are not a trial lawyer or anything close to that, to me, you're a glorified researcher. And I always say, I can research too, okay? And if you're watching this video, you can also research too. So you may look like a lawyer, or you may be, as people want to say to me, the people who are against Diddy or anything to do with that, they're going to say, I'm acting like a lawyer. I don't act like a lawyer. I just speak on what I know based on my research. And this is what I'm teaching you guys to do today. And then there's other people who say, is he a lawyer? Or they'll say, maybe he's a lawyer, but he's just pretending not to be. Guys, I am not a lawyer, okay? I'm just a person that researches case study and the law as it pertains to myself, my situation, or any particular case in any particular situation, all right? All you got to do is Google the actual offense and ask what the statute is, the federal statute is for that offense. So in this particular case, one of the resources was Cornell Law School. Let me know in the comments if Cornell Law School you believe is not a good source. So let me go through the Mann Act for you guys. Now, the Mann Act, that's the first charge of transporting a person or persons across state lines for the intention of prostitution. As you can see, the Mann Act, you might have actually have heard the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910. Now, here's the important thing to remember about this, guys. It's 1910, okay? There was a reason why this law was put in, and there's a reason why it's so old. It's because this was happening. Now, they weren't being flown out. This is an outdated statute. And if he gets found guilty and the conviction is upheld, I anticipate that there's going to be an adjustment to this. We're talking about 1910. We're in the year 2025, okay? It's a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of any woman or girl. Do you see? It doesn't even say man, even though it's called the Mann Act. But do you see, of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery or for any other immoral purpose? Immoral. This is a very, very old statute. This tells you right here, immoral. What is immoral in 1910 versus immoral today? What is even debauchery in 1910 versus debauchery today? And then they only had any woman or any girl, right? So already we got issues with this particular act. Already we got issues in this particular act. The Mann Act passed in June 1910 and named after Illinois Congressman James R. Mann, where you get the act from, invoked the Commerce Clause to felonize the use of interstate or foreign commerce to transport women. The idea here is that people were transporting women for prostitution, all right? Now we're in an equal world. You might be able to do that too. Or maybe, just maybe, and I am leaning this way, they only have 2 charges for the Mann Act for the 2 female victims, not the male escorts that they were transporting. Now, notice I didn't say transporting for the sake of prostitution, just transporting escorts and or entertainment. It may be the reason that they don't have 5, 7, 8, 10, because apparently there were like 30, 40, 50 of these people over the period from since Cassie to Jane Doe. So why wouldn't they be able to put some of these other people on the stand to say, yes, I was transported for this reason? They've only put 2 men on the stand so far that call themselves escorts. And one of the men actually said he never left New York. He was always in New York when he met them. And he's born and raised in New York. He's born in Brooklyn, he's raised in Harlem, and he's only met them in New York. So what was even the point of putting him on the stand to bolster this statement? and then the other ones. So I believe what the prosecution is really trying to say is that he was moving these women who are his girlfriends, which is already problematic, for prostitution, which also doesn't make any sense because he's not getting any money for paying for bringing the woman. He's actually paying money to bring the woman. So as we continue, and again, guys, this is why we break this down so we can understand in our own minds and we can use our own brains and be logical about this. All right. The act was aimed at prostitution, immorality, and human trafficking. Congress appointed a commission in 1907 to investigate into the problem of immigrant prostitutes. So now you're setting a brand new precedent that is not even close to what is here right now. And they look at that. And oftentimes they'll overturn it, or the judge will overturn it, because they don't only look at if you technically broke the law. They look
Hey, yo,
at,
can you pause that real quick as I get ready?
what
I just
the-
heard something. I heard something. I said oftentimes they'd overturn it, or the judge will overturn it. I don't remember what the date of this video was, but this is like in the first probably 2 or 3 weeks of the trial. And look where we came full circle, where they're asking the judge to overturn it.
law was made for in the first place. What was the purpose of this law in the first place? This is trying to fit a square peg in a round circle, because this was never made for somebody like Sean Puffy Combs or like Hugh Hefner or like any of these people. It was alleged that immigrant women were brought to America for sexual slavery, and immigrant men lured American girls into prostitution or white slavery. The committees believed that no girl would enter prostitution unless drugged or held captive. This led to public outrage, which eventually resulted in the enactment of the Mann Act. Okay, now I'm not going to go through the rest. So now we're in the actual statute, and this is what he's actually charged with. It's known as the Mann Act. I just got to give you guys an overview of that, because a lot of people say the charges don't fit. That's what they're talking about, because you're trying to change the entire precedent of an entire statute, which is very, very difficult. And I know a lot of you guys are watching CNN and ABC and CBS and all this. They all have an agenda. That's why they're so rich, right? I'm just giving it to you straight up, no chaser, right down the middle. I'm looking at the stuff. I'm putting it on the screen myself, all right? And this is what the jurors are going to see, because the judge is going to give them specific jury instructions that are based on this. And he's going to put it in layman's terms for them. And he's going to explain to them, this is how simple this can be. And if he does this, then you can find him guilty of this. And if he does not do this, then you cannot find him guilty of this. Now, I heard that the jury instructions are over 130 pages. So the jury might be deliberating just over the instructions over maybe 2 days. So this will probably not come back for a while. It's not like the O.J. Simpson trial where everybody said, why did the jury come back in like 45 minutes or an hour or whatever? This is very different. Whoever knowingly, remember knowingly, guys, remember that knowingly, whoever knowingly transports any individual in interstate or foreign commerce or in any territory or possession of the United States with intent that such individual engage in prostitution or in any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense. Attempts to do so shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years on or both. Okay, so we'll get to B 1 and 2 in a second, but I just want to highlight knowingly, and I want to highlight attempts. Knowingly, in this particular case with Sean Puffy Combs, I believe that this is a problem for him, for the defense, because the defense is going to say something like, we hired escorts, we hired entertainment. We didn't know that they were going to do that. It wasn't knowingly that that's what it was for, right? Again, whoever knowingly transports any individual in interstate or foreign commerce or any territory or possession of the United States with the intent. If you're knowing that that is the intent, that such individual engage in this act, that's a problem. Now, the other key word that I probably missed is in the engage in prostitution. So we're going to get there in a second. Okay. The other one is attempts to do so. So even if you didn't know that you're doing that and engaging in this act of prostitution, also, if they get there and you try to attempt to do it, right? Or if they attempted to and the person didn't go. Let's say they attempted to and they didn't end up going past the state lines. According to this, even if you attempt to do so, you shall be fined. So you knew what you were doing, and even if the person didn't arrive or whatever, and you still attempted, then that's an attempt to do so. Okay, these are both very important things to understand. Let's keep moving forward, and then I'll give you my commentary because this is as much as I'm going to read. B, request to prosecute violations by state attorney general. Okay, the attorney general shall grant a request by a state attorney general. That is it. Yeah, actually, we really don't even need to read this part, to be honest with you, because the only reason why we're talking about this is because this is number one, the Mann Act is part of the RICO, and number two, because this is what he's directly charged for, and it's above state's federal charge. So one of the things that I really need people to understand is knowingly. Knowingly is very important because you have to be aware. Prostitution is very important because prostitution is the act of selling, whether you are selling your own body or you're selling somebody else's body, in this case, somebody else's body. And then number three is attempt. Even if that wasn't the case, it was an attempt. The prosecution leaning on these three elements. The defense is leaning on a totally different thing. The defense is trying to say that there's no way that any of these three elements can be met because prostitution is not met. And so it doesn't matter if you're knowing or you attempt it, it's not prostitution. Let me explain what I mean. What you guys keep hearing on mainstream media is sex workers, prostitution, sex workers, prostitution, sex workers, prostitution. We're not hearing that in the trial. In the trial, we're hearing Cowboys and Angels, escort company. We're hearing escort. We're hearing entertainment. We're hearing dancers. None of those are prostitutes. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's just fancy words for, it's not a fancy word for a prostitute. The same way that an OnlyFans model can go from Texas to New York in order to star in a video and get paid by either the production company or the other person that they're starring with or whatever that world is. I'm not that familiar with the world, but I know how it works. The same way they can do that and travel across state lines and get paid is the same way that a person can go and fly out to California or San Diego or Los Angeles or San Francisco and go and star in an adult film, okay, is the same exact thing that separates it from prostitution. This is the whole reason why this whole Cowboys and Angels even exists. Think about it. Make it make sense in your mind, okay? How is it that this Cowboys and Angels company exists in states that it is illegal to have prostitutes? How is it that it even existed before it was even legal for prostitution in certain areas? How is it that this even existed? So let me get this straight. Sean Diddy Combs is getting charged for hiring these people, but these companies aren't getting charged for taking his money. So the person that's making money is not getting charged, but the person that's giving their money is getting charged. So here's my prediction. The defense, a lot of people are saying the defense is not going to be able to get behind this. They're not going to be able to do anything about this. They're going to bring the CEOs or the managers or the supervisors or the founders of companies like this, the adult film companies, the escort companies, the dancing companies, all of this stuff. They're going to bring those people on the stand to explain to the jury how this actually works. Because the average person don't know how it works. They don't understand. A lot of rich men, actors, athletes, entertainers, singers, rappers, they hire female escorts, whatever, that they can find on Instagram or otherwise. And they say, hey, my boy's getting married, bachelor party in Turks and Caicos. You guys want to come? The strippers are going to say, well, you got to pay me for my time. You got to pay me to dance. You got to pay me to be there. No problem. Come on. We'll pay you. Okay. They're flown out of the country because it said international, right? Or they're flown to Vegas, or they're flown wherever this bachelor party takes place. Are you to tell me if any of those strippers or any of those female escorts or any of those ladies that are there to give company and entertainment to the men end up sleeping with any of the men? Are you to tell me that that is a violation of the Mann Act? At this point, you can go and comment below, because that's the precedent we're setting. Except they're not females, they're males. So there were the two ladies on the stand, Cassie and Jane, that testified to doing these things and basically having intercourse with men that were flown out and were paid for their time and experience. But that's what they're paid for. So the defense is standing on, this is not paid for. This is paid for them to come and entertain, hang out, time and experience. And this is what the defense is going to stand on, because the Punisher guy, the first 2-3 times, you go back and look at the transcripts, he did not have intercourse with Cassie. He said he was not comfortable. She said, come over, do a dance, all that kind of stuff. And whatever you're comfortable with, you're comfortable with. He testified to saying at least the first time, I'm pretty sure it was 2-3 times, he did not do anything except for massager and this and that. He said that because I wasn't comfortable. Over time, I got comfortable with that. So if he was paid to have intercourse and he did not have intercourse, then he would not have gotten paid, right? But he still got paid. The defense is going to lean on this. They paid everybody, whether they did it or not. There were many times that these male escorts, these male dancers, these male entertainers did not actually have intercourse and they were still paid, which the defense is going to say they got paid to be there. They did not get paid to have intercourse. Otherwise, if they didn't have intercourse, they wouldn't get paid. So this is how the adult film industry became a billion-dollar industry and gets around the Mann Act. This is how these escort companies get around the Mann Act, because they're not specifically paid to do that. And it makes perfect sense as to why they're able to do that, because if you go back to the beginning of the reason why the Mann Act even existed, is because it was trying to protect women, specifically immigrant women, and specifically immigrant men that were coming to the country and then putting women into prostitution and making them travel around. So the law recognizes that those things that we're talking about when it comes to adult films and escorts and dancers and even now OnlyFans, the law is recognizing that those aren't really what this was all about to begin with. Now, the prosecution is trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And I don't know if you've ever tried to fit a square peg in a round hole, but it doesn't mean it won't fit. It means it's very difficult to fit. Now, I'm going to close off with this. To me, that is not right. That is not justice. It clearly shows you're trying to get him for other things, and you're trying to make this one stick and make this one fit. And that's very dangerous. And every single person who is, even whether you live in this country, whether you're visiting, you should be concerned, because this law applies to all of the above. And you really do need to be concerned with a legal system that is supposed to be out for justice, trying to twist certain principles of certain laws and things like that in order to get somebody that they want to get. You could be next. And that's why I care. It's nothing to do with Sean Puffy Combs. Although I think he's been great for our community, I think he's great for Black men as it pertains to the music industry and business and the things that he's accomplished and the things that he's given to us. I don't know the man in person, so I have no judgment of his character. But his track record as it pertains to business and what he's accomplished in business, no matter how he's accomplished it, because there's a lot of rumors that he hasn't gone the right way in accomplishing those things. And what he's done for business, he's broken down barriers and opened doors. Yes, of course, I have some sort of feeling toward that because me as a businessman myself and as a former entertainer, not the entertainers in the freak offs, I was a singer, and and I was an athlete. I'm not talking about that. But my point is, for me, that helps me to feel like, yes, I am inspired by this person, and put your personal life over here. Okay. But my point is, this is not what that's about. I'm not here today because of that. I'm here today for leadership. I'm here today to hopefully influence or inspire people to think for themselves, to do their own research, to not be following the masses because the M is silent, to actually have your own opinion and go with what you believe is right based off your own research, not based off of what you heard, not based off what somebody told you, and definitely not based off of your feelings. And I will tell you one last thing, guys. If the jurors, which is what the prosecution is clearly trying to do, they're trying to evoke emotion in jurors. If the jurors make this decision over emotion, it will not stand. It will be overturned by another judge, or I think it would have to be another judge, or it will definitely be overturned by an appeal court. So if you do want this person to be in prison for years, you should be an advocate for it happening the right way. Otherwise, it's going to get overturned anyway. And it's not because he's rich, and it's not because he's powerful, and it's not because he's an entertainer, and it's not because he has an amazing legal team. It's because these were the wrong charges. At least this one. We'll get to the next one and the next one and the next one. But at least this charge, it's not the right one based on what we just looked at. All right, guys, this is Jay from Conversations with Jay. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you love me or hate me. If you hate me, it's even more fuel. If you love me, it's more and more and more fuel. So just whatever you have, leave it below. I appreciate all you guys. And if I've said anything wrong, challenge me, because I'm a thought leader. I'm not a follower. So challenge me so I can educate myself, or maybe educate you if that's what's necessary. All right, I appreciate everybody being here. Please, guys, send this video to somebody so they can understand what this is all about. I appreciate everybody here, and go and be great. Peace.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining our live today. That, as you guys know, that video was, I think that was what, our 5th video that we ever made, maybe our 4th video that we ever made. As you guys know, we just started this channel, right? So we've been in, I guess, about 6 weeks. So I appreciate you guys rocking with me, building this channel. We can't do it without you. So send this to somebody else that you know could benefit from thought leadership, stuff like that. Don't miss our 7:30 a.m. live videos on this channel. Our 7:30 a.m. live videos are about 3 or 4 times a week right now. It's a little bit spotty, I'll be honest with you, but it's been 4 times this week. We won't have it tomorrow, but our next one will be Monday. So it'll be Monday to Thursday next week as well. So we're keeping to our schedule, and just put your notifications on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you will get notified when we're going on live at 7:30 a.m. We only keep those 7:30 a.m. lives on for about, I would say, about 12 hours or so, and then we take them down. And the only reason why that's the case is because we want our morning club to be an exclusive morning club. We don't want that to just be for everybody. If you are one of the people who want to make us a part of your morning routine in those 12 hours, because who knows what time zone you live in those 12 hours, if you want to make us a part of your morning routine, we want to reward that. And so those videos will not be available past 12 hours from when we post them. So by the evening, they won't be there. However, for all the rest of you guys, please like, share, subscribe to all of our content. We're doing we have I just had a meeting this morning with our team in regards to what we're doing for August. We got a lot of great things planned for you guys for August. Appreciate all your support. God bless you all, and keep being thought leaders, keep being great, and keep being powerful. Power is a choice, greatness is a choice, and those choices come with every single decision you make throughout your day. All right, see, you want to drop the out? Wait, 1 second. AS, shout out to you because AS is the one that gave us the motion that we went through in this live earlier today. Do you think the government is going to respond? That's such a great question because I asked myself that question too. I think they have to, but I'm wondering whether their response is going to be just a kind of a weak response or whether they're going to go hard. And also, Comey was usually the one that kind of was the aggressor in the responses when I was in the courtroom. So I'm not sure exactly who's going to take that role now. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe the government will respond. The question is, how aggressive are they going to be in their response? I'm in London, just finished work. Yes, EST, Eastern Standard Time. All right. That's where I am. This is New York time. So,
No, I think you misread that.
oh,
So Kamisha Glam Lounge said, "I'm in London, just finished work. What did the ET judge did? Um, I'm late."
the ET judge, which one? What's the ET mean?
I'm thinking maybe she's calling him ET, the alien.
Oh, okay. Oh, the ET judge. I get it. I get it now. I get it.
He didn't
Geez.
respond to the bail, if that's what you're wondering, Kamisha. We're still waiting on that, but now the team, Diddy's legal team, had filed a motion for acquittal, and at very least, if the acquittal is not granted, then a retrial, but only for the Mann Act.
Yeah, 100%. Kamisha, shout out to you from London. What time is it in London? It must be like 5 a.m. No, wait. You guys are what? No, it must be like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning there, right? 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. AI says they have 3 hours left to respond. Yeah, because they got to respond by 11:59 p.m. Yeah, 100%. It must be 2, 3 a.m. 2 a.m. Yeah, Kamisha says 2 a.m. in London. Yeah, shout out to London and thank you for making us part of your nighttime routine. I really appreciate it. All right, y'all. See, you want to drop that outro? Because I'm out, yo.
All right.
God bless you all. Peace.